Emily sat in the cold silence of the hospital room, gently holding her 6-month-old son Noah's tiny hand in her palm. That little hand had never moved. The doctors had said, "He will never walk," and now he lay there in a deep sleep. The hope she carried inside her was fading a little more each day. But that night, on that stormy night, a miracle happened. A little heart, a furry friend, and endless love. It was the moment everything changed. If you want to hear more touching stories like this, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to my channel. Thank you for watching. Emily Dawson sat by the bedside of her 6-month-old son, Noah, who lay silently in the hospital bed. The machines attached to his tiny body beeped rhythmically in the cold stillness of the room. His little hands had never moved, nor had his feet. The doctor's words still echoed in her ears: a rare neurological disorder. Paralyzed from the neck down. He will never move, never walk, not even crawl. Emily gazed at her son's face. His smooth cheeks looked peaceful yet fragile under the shadow of his closed eyelashes. Without even realizing it, tears slipped down her face, dripping from her chin. She took a deep breath, trying to push down the crushing helplessness inside her. Every mother dreamed of seeing her baby's first steps. But for Emily, even the slightest movement would be a miracle. Her husband, James, worked tirelessly to cover the hospital expenses. Days and nights blurred together as he barely made it home for a few hours before rushing back to work. Meanwhile, Emily had lost all sense of time. Her days were spent at Noah's bedside, trapped between the doctor's discouraging words. Hope and despair waged a constant battle inside her. But the nights were the hardest. The silence only made her fears grow louder. As she watched her son in the dim hospital light, the darkest questions surfaced in her mind. What if the doctors are right? What if he never gets better? What if he never feels my arms around him again? Swallowing back her fear, Emily gently took her son's tiny hand. Softly, almost imperceptibly, she stroked his finger. Maybe one day, a miracle will happen," she whispered, holding back her tears. Then came Max, a small Labrador puppy, James's gift. "He'll bring you some joy," James had said, his eyes filled with hope. At first, Emily had hesitated. She was already spending every moment caring for Noah. How could she take care of a dog? Her mind was constantly weighed down with worries. But Max, as if he understood her thoughts, never asked for anything. He didn't need attention or extra care. He was just there. The most surprising thing, however, was Max's attachment to Noah. From the very first day, he curled up beside the crib and never left. He spent hours watching Noah, following his every breath. At night, he would settle down beside the bed as if guarding him, his warm breath gently mixing with Noah's blanket. What touched Emily the most was how Max never gave up. He had to know that Noah couldn't pet him, couldn't reach out to him, but he didn't care. He would rest his nose gently on the edge of the blanket and stay perfectly still, waiting. Sometimes as Emily watched him, she felt tears slip down her face. Because in Max's unwavering, unconditional love, she saw something she hadn't dared to believe in for a long time: hope. That night, the storm raged through the city. The wind howled against the windows and the thunder shook the house. Emily flinched as a deafening crash echoed through the night. Her heart pounded wildly, and a wave of fear washed over her. Gasping for breath, she leaped out of bed and rushed to Noah's room. She froze the moment she opened the door. Max stood tall beside Noah's crib, his front paws carefully resting on the tiny body beneath the blanket. His eyes were locked onto Noah's face as if he were trying to tell him something important. As Emily took in the sight, something happened. Something impossible. Noah's tiny fingers twitched. Emily's breath caught in her throat. For a few seconds she stood completely still, unable to believe what she had just seen. Maybe it was a trick of the light, maybe just her desperate mind playing games with her. But no. Her eyes weren't deceiving her. Max gently pressed his nose against Noah's cheek. And in that very moment, her son's lips curled into the faintest little smile. Emily's eyes filled with tears. Her throat tightened, and her chest ached with overwhelming emotion. Could this really be happening? Was her son, the one the doctors had said would never move, actually responding? A spark of hope ignited in her heart. Small but radiant, like the very first glimmer of a miracle. The next morning, with trembling hands full of hope and excitement, Emily scooped Noah into her arms and rushed to the hospital, Max right by her side. Fear and hope tangled inside her. What if what she saw last night was just a coincidence? But what if? What if a miracle had really happened? The doctors listened to Emily's story with skeptical expressions, shaking their heads. It was probably just a reflex, they said, trying to explain it scientifically. But Emily refused to give up. The fire of hope burning in her eyes couldn't be extinguished by doubt. Max, as if he knew exactly what to do, sat beside Noah and gently pressed his nose against the baby's tiny fingers. And right then, in front of everyone, Noah's little hand twitched. A deep silence filled the room. One of the doctors rushed forward, eyes wide as he checked the monitors. The others, stunned, immediately began running tests. Minutes passed in tense silence until one of them finally looked up, his gaze still filled with disbelief as he turned to Emily. Noah's muscles are starting to respond. This wasn't supposed to happen. Emily's heart pounded so hard she thought it might burst. Tears streamed down her cheeks as she scooped Max into her arms, burying her face in his soft fur. Her voice trembled as she whispered, "It's because of him." A tiny puppy had ignited the spark of something deemed impossible. And now, Emily was certain she was witnessing a miracle unfold before her eyes. As the days passed, Noah's body began to respond more and more. At first it was just faint finger movements. Then tiny twitches in his arm muscles. Small progress, but each one was a miracle. And through it all, Max never left his side. It was no surprise that Noah's first real smile was for Max. The little pup stayed beside him every day, patiently waiting, playing, and encouraging him. Noah started wiggling his tiny fingers more, trying to reach out, wanting to be part of Max's games. As time went on, the impossible slowly became reality. By the time Noah turned 1, he could fully move his arms. At 2, he learned to sit up on his own. And on his 3rd birthday, Max stood right in front of him, his fur bristling with excitement, his tail wagging impatiently. Emily held her breath, watching closely. Her son locked eyes with his best friend. His little fingers stretched out slightly, hovering in the air, and then Noah took his first step toward Max. The news spread through the hospital like wildfire, whispered through the halls as a miracle. Even the doctors struggled to explain it. But to Emily it wasn't a miracle, it was love. Unwavering, unconditional, pure love. And that love had made the impossible possible. If you want to hear more touching stories like this, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to my channel. Thank you for watching.